This is without a doubt one of the greatest horror movies ever made. Let's do it. Descent is about this group of friends that is super outdoorsy and adventurous. One of them is Sarah, and another one of them is Juno. So they're whitewater rafting, and Sarah's husband Paul and their daughter Jessica is there with them. So Sarah gets in the car, the three of them are on their way home. Paul is driving, and they get in a car accident, and Paul and Jessica, the daughter, die. Sarah wakes up in the hospital, obviously completely distraught, and Juno is there comforting her. Then we cut to a year later. Sarah is obviously still super fucked up and traumatized, and Juno and her other friend Beth convince her to do this like girls' weekend in the woods. They're in the Appalachian Mountains, to be specific, to go caving. Or spelunking, as the adventurous people who go into caves call it. I am not one of them. So you have Beth, Sarah, and Juno, and Rebecca, Sam, and Holly. So the next day the group hikes up to this cave, and there's this scene where they're explaining like in the darkness in caves you can get dehydrated, you can get disoriented. Basically all this terrifying shit that is the reason why most normal people don't go into caves. So they get to the cave entrance, which they then have to descend into, and you can tell Holly is kind of just like not listening to any of Juno's instructions, which Juno's getting kind of pissed about. But then Juno goes up to Sarah and she's like, hey, sorry, I haven't really been there for you in the last year. You know, since her husband and daughter were tragically killed. But Sarah this whole time is just like kind of distant. Again, she's very obviously working through her trauma. So the group starts moving through this cave, and there is an incredibly claustrophobic scene where they have to go through this really narrow passage. So they're all like on their stomachs shimmying their way through, and Sarah gets fucking stuck. I think it's Beth that goes back to Sarah and is like, okay, you're gonna breathe and we're gonna get through this. But as she's talking her through it, the tunnel starts to fucking collapse. They make it out, but the tunnel completely collapses, which takes some of their backpacks with their supplies in it and also blocks the way in which they just came from. So then Juno's like, okay guys, well I have to tell you something. This cave has actually not been fully explored, and we are like the first people down here. I just thought it would be really cool if we were the first to discover it, you know? But that also means that I don't know another way out, and there's no way for somebody to come in and rescue us. And she's like, but Sarah, I did it for you so we could fix our relationship. Fuck you, Juno, now we're all gonna die in here. So obviously everybody's fucking pissed. But now they go on and search for an exit because there's literally nothing else they can do. So there's another anxiety-inducing scene where they have to like scale from one cliff to another cliff. And Juno volunteers to be the one to go across first to hang the stuff to put the rope on. Sorry, I'm not a caver, I don't know what you call the equipment. But as she's doing that, she notices that there's already equipment in the cave. So somebody has been here. They make it across and they see these like carvings in the cave that they think signifies an exit. And Holly thinks that she sees sunlight, so she starts just fucking running. This bitch books it. And everybody tries to tell her to stop, but she doesn't fucking listen, and she falls and breaks her leg. So while the rest of them are all helping Holly, Sarah kind of goes off on her own, and she sees this weird figure by this like body of water. And we get a really slight glimpse of it, but we know that something's not fucking right. So the group carries on, and they come across this mass grave of animal bones. At this point, they want to preserve their headlights, so they're kind of using night vision, and this is one of the greatest jump scares in horror movie history. As they're looking through night vision, behind Beth, this fucking thing appears. So these are what we call the crawlers. As if this wasn't already a horror movie with them just being stuck in a fucking claustrophobic ass cave, then we're getting creatures. So Holly at this point, again with a broken leg, is pretty incapacitated and helpless, and she is attacked by one of the crawlers and it bites her throat and she is dead. In the chaos, Sarah makes a run for it, but she falls and gets knocked unconscious. So back where all the commotion's going on, the crawler is now trying to drag Holly's body away, which Juno is trying to stop, so she attacks the crawler with a pickaxe and offs it. But then she hears somebody behind her and swings her pickaxe without looking, and it's fucking Beth. And the pickaxe goes through her neck. So Beth collapses, and when she does, she grabs Juno's necklace and pulls it off. And literally with her dying breath, she's begging Juno to stay with her, but Juno is now terrified and runs off. Meanwhile, Sarah now wakes up amid like the animal bones and carcasses and sees one of the crawlers eating Holly. Juno finds Sam and Rebecca, and they notice that there are these cave drawings that seem to depict where the exit is. But Juno tells them, I'm not fucking leaving here without Sarah. And now everybody has kind of deduced on their own that the crawlers are not able to see. They are completely blind and only hunt using sound. So then we see Sarah again, and at this point she comes across Beth, who is still clinging on to life. And Sarah's like, what happened to you? And Beth tells her that Juno did this to her and then abandoned her. And this is where the fucking doozy comes in. Beth gives Sarah the pendant necklace that she pulled off Juno, and that's when Sarah realizes that Juno got this gift from her husband Paul, and they were having an affair. Her best friend was having an affair with her husband, who was killed in a car accident. Devastating. As if this poor woman hasn't been through enough. And at this point, Beth knows that she's not going to survive, so she begs Sarah to mercy kill her, which she does. And then comes what I believe to be probably the best scene of the entire movie. Sarah comes across and is attacked by multiple crawlers and she fucking kills them all. Because at this point, she is running off of like adrenaline and fucking rage at the fact that her best friend was having an affair with her husband. This is again where you see that the crawlers cannot see because at one point Sarah is laying down and one is like literally on top of her fucking head. During the struggle, Sarah falls into this blood pool and she emerges victoriously, completely covered in blood, but having defeated all the crawlers that attacked her, including one that pops out of the blood pool unexpectedly. It's fucking terrifying. Meanwhile, Juno, Rebecca, and Sam now encounter a huge group of crawlers. And as they're scaling across this chasm, Sam is attacked by a crawler and has her throat ripped out. Sam manages to stab the crawler but ultimately bleeds out. And then not long after, Rebecca is attacked and dragged away by a crawler and literally eaten alive. And then Juno finds Sarah. And Sarah's like, "Where's Beth, Juno?" And Juno's like, "Oh, they got her. I found her dead." Obviously fucking lying, and Sarah knows it. So then this all gets super intense because they're attacked by another group of crawlers and the two of them manage to fight them off together. But after they kill the last one, Sarah reveals the pendant that Juno had from Paul to her and basically just looks at Juno like, "I know what you fucking did, bitch." And Sarah stabs Juno in the leg with a pickaxe and leaves her for dead as a group of crawlers surrounds her. Sarah escapes and the last thing that she hears is Juno screaming. Meanwhile, Sarah once again falls and is knocked unconscious. But this time when she wakes up, she looks up and sees sunlight. Now, there's two endings to this movie, the original UK version and then the American version. So in both versions, Sarah looks up and sees sunlight and she climbs through this like hill of bones and she makes it out of the fucking cave. She gets out, she's exhausted, she's running to the car and she makes it to the car, which the keys are in. When she makes it a little ways down the road, she pulls over to vomit. And when she sits up, she sees a ghostly apparition of Juno and then screams. In the American version, that's how it ends. So the American version, she makes it out of the cave. However, in the original UK version, she does not. Because it turns out she dreamed that escape while she was unconscious and now she wakes up having a hallucination of her dead daughter. So she looks up and sees her daughter with this birthday cake in front of her. But we see what's really happening, which is her staring at nothing with this torch in between her. As she's distracted by this hallucination, the last image we see is all of the crawlers closing in on her and the movie ends.